Hey guys, how are we doing? Crypto Insight UK here, bringing you back another video. So today we're going to have a look at some short-term TA, some short-term price action, but we're also going to discuss like macro indicators that can give us this. What we're looking for is the path set for our crypto move to the upside, which is what I've been talking to you guys and what I expect is coming. So I think we'll start on that actually. We'll start with gold, we'll start with the DXY, and we'll start with where does this thesis come from? And we've been discussing this for a long while now in the weekly newsletter, in that I think we're about 11 weeks lagging the DXY with Bitcoin, and that's what gave us the exact bottom that we called in the weekly insight of April the 9th, I think it was. We gave you that date pre that becoming the bottom. Because of this, we basically said it takes about 11 weeks for the price action of the DXY to inversely correlate with that of crypto or Bitcoin specifically in this example. And I'm going to show you what I'm talking about here. And the reason we first found this is because when the DXY topped back in October of 2022, 17th of October, it took 11 weeks for us to come off the bottom. And in that time, we'd seen this heavy degradation of DXY price. And we were looking for something similar here. And yes, the DXY and Bitcoin have been moving kind of in lockstep at some points. And that's because, in my opinion, people were moving their assets from the dollar as a safety play, but also we're moving them from Bitcoin as well, being a dollar denominated asset. Obviously, most things are denominated in the dollar. The dollar was moving into local currencies, and like risk off was also happening around the same sort of time as Trump came through with tariffs and came into power, etc. Or the Trump pump had started to like cool off. The idea of that had started to cool off, and now what we're seeing is this lag. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 weeks since the real the biggest pullback. So I think we could be in this period here for Bitcoin. Essentially, I think we're in these sort of areas here. So I think the next step is the next big push to the upside, because that's the DXY pulling down, and then that would mean Bitcoin's next big push to the upside. And we've shown you with our bars pattern where we think that could take us to. I think it takes us to the deep areas of liquidity that we discuss on Trading Different, which we'll just quickly look at now. So that's the short term that you can see right now. But if we're in that period here, remember this is going to be inverse, so that pulling down would mean us going up in terms of crypto price. That's what I think gives us the push up into this next area here, potentially between up to like 112, 114k, but then could take up towards 115, 116k, but then could give us a squeeze up to 125, 130 if it's aggressive. If we see something like this, for example. And that's when things really get exciting here for crypto. The longer we range like this, the more likely I think it is that we do push through this resistance level. We touched the liquidity. Yeah, we potentially could come back and grab the liquidity below, as I'm going to show you, down towards like 100k. But the longer we do range in this area, the more likely I think it is that we do start to head to the upside. I'm going to show you on the hourly time frame why I think things like this happen and why I make that claim. It's because the longer, yes, we've got liquidity below us, but the longer we've been in this chopping range, the more the area where liquidity is added more is above us, which gives us a potential move to right now 113,000, nearly $114,000 Bitcoin, and then that takes us, if you look on the daily liquidity, 114,000. Where does that take us? 114,000 takes us deep into this liquidity area here, which would be closing a lot of short positions, which means they then have to buy, and that then would probably be reinforcing and squeezes higher potentially. So that's how these things can really become self-perpetuating and self-reinforcing cycles to the upside. Now, on the other side of that discussion, if we get this pullback down to 100k, and there is a little bit below us, below that at 93, we get this pullback down to 100k, guys, I'm told you this before, I'm balls deep on altcoins at that point. Don't know if that's an appropriate thing to say, but I am. That's on the honest truth, and that's where I am. Just looking at gold very quickly, we know that gold and Bitcoin have been trending in the same direction long term, but short term I've been discussing the inverse correlation. Like gold seems to be having a push up and then Bitcoin takes a breath, and then when gold takes a breath, Bitcoin has a push up. Now gold's at the top of its like descending parallel channel that we've been in. It has broke out the top and it's broken back inside. I think that gold does have a short-term pullback. That's what I was looking for, but potentially it doesn't if we continue to see like debasement of currency around the world, and we are starting to see some of that. Like we saw Japan have a short-term stimulus. We saw some short-term stimulus from China. I don't know what comes next and which country decides to press the print button, whether that's in the guise of yield curve control or some other like shadow banking or disguised three-letter policy that increases liquidity in the system. But it may continue to uptick, but it would be more aggressive move in crypto, in my opinion, if gold does start to pull back, because we see the days recently. Look, when gold's been red, so yesterday a decent red day for gold, and what did we have yesterday for crypto? Let's just have a look at Bitcoin, for example. Oh, we did actually end up in the red there for Bitcoin, so maybe not a great example, but maybe ETH had quite a decent day to the upside. So the other thing that we're now looking at for ETH, for example, is this pattern that we discussed, where we are forming lower highs and really bounce off this resistance in sort of a bull flag or an ascending triangle to potentially push us to the upside. What I would look at in the short term for ETH is like a range potentially being formed here. Let's have a look at this range. Where's my parallel channel? These are just the things that I'm looking at before potentially moving to the upside here. So we've got a range here for ETH from around here to around here, and the interesting thing is though that we are forming higher lows within this range, making it into this bull pennant or bull flag, ascending triangle sort of pattern, whatever you want to call it, consolidating for a push potentially to the upside, which, because of this pattern specifically, makes me feel like it is more likely that we move up in alts than move down. And what would be an interesting dynamic is if Bitcoin had the pullback to say 100,000, and that's when alts really started to push up higher. I think Bitcoin could very easily push to 115, and then alts could move with it, but then there's another world where the liquidity below us gets taken, and then that would be where I would be interested in seeing what alts do at that time. We haven't really seen that dynamic really play out yet this cycle, where Bitcoin's pulling back and alts push up, aside from when XRP had its big push in November and Bitcoin dominance had about a 10% drop. So ETH on the daily is looking for a bullish cross and is coming bullish out of the oversold area, the stochastic RSI. Looking to see if we've got this confirmation on Bitcoin dominance. Bitcoin dominance rejected yesterday, again the 702. We had a bit of a structure break as the daily close came in lower than our local swing lows. Today we have had a bit of a retracement back into this potential support, which is then resistance area, which would be looked at like this. Let me just show you what you can see. We had a few daily closes in this area here, so that would probably be the short-term resistance. It pushed into there. So far it's rejecting off that with the structure break, as we discussed, with the daily close coming in below. I would like to see a continued red candle today for Bitcoin dominance, indicating that alts are continuing their outperformance. With ETH looking potentially to break to the upside with a potential bullish cross coming on the daily RSI and the stochastic coming off the oversold area, ETH is where I would be looking. Things are very close to exciting territory across the board. XRP is just sort of hovering. We could very quickly see things change. What I think we'll probably see for XRP to really catalyze this is a big break to the upside whenever that might come. If we look at XRP Bitcoin, XRP ETH, nothing's really changed. XRP ETH is still printing this heavy bullish divergence on the daily time frame, with a higher low coming on the RSI. Let's get my pen back out. Where's my pen? With a higher low coming on the RSI and a continued lower low coming in terms of XRP ETH strength. Yes, we've discussed that it could come back and tap this area, but the thing that will really interest me, maybe excite me, is when ETH has this next breakout move, if that comes now, how's XRP going to respond to that? And that's what we really need to monitor there. We also need to keep our eye on XRP Bitcoin, which is right in the area we discussed. I said we'd sweep these lows, create the bullish divergence. We've done exactly that. And what is XRP's reaction next? If Bitcoin gets the pullback, does XRP hold strong? And that's how we start to take the dominance back to give us enough strength to start to break with this descending trend line. Does XRP start to outperform Bitcoin and the USD pairing to the upside when this ETH move happens? These are all the things that you need to be assessing in your head. Again, XRP dominance, very similar. Bullish divergence on the RSI, not as clear, but is still true as the price action makes a lower low. But again, this descending trend line, things will change very quickly if we move like I think we will, just as ETH has shown so far in this move up, and just as XRP showed in its move in November. What you get is aggressive green candles from these sorts of areas on the RSI. Look on the daily time frame, boom, explosion to the upside, and it happens in a very short period of time. So that's one green candle, then a red, and then 3 consecutive green candles. So in the space of 4 days, we gain in dominance. We gain like 1% of dominance in the market and a 77% gain. So very quickly, you see these moves to the upside. So don't get disheartened on these moves to the downside. They last a long time, and the moves to the upside only last 21 days, and you do from 1.2% up to 4.6% of market dominance increase. Like, keep your finger on the trigger. Don't sleep on these periods. If you haven't got enough allocation, these are the times when to be adding. Obviously, not financial advice. It's up to you when you add yourselves. But you can see from history, when we get the moves, they're aggressive. They happen for very short periods of time, and then we have long periods of consolidation. We have long periods of consolidation and gloom, and everyone hates the assets and whatever, all the bullshit narratives that come out. And then realistically, the next move is significant price appreciation. And that's what I think is coming. I think that's coming for alts generally. I think it's going to they'll go higher than most people expect. I think the Genius Act or the Genius Bill, if that gets passed, the stablecoin bill could act as a catalyst for that. I try not to look too much for catalysts, but I think that just technically what we can see is a lot of things lining up, and then we take the macro fundamentals into consideration as well. They're paving the path for a longer term bull market for risk on. And I think that and multiplied by or added to liquidity conditions loosening is where things get really, really exciting here for crypto, especially as you see in the largest financial player in the world, being the United States, really starting to get behind this, at least in narrative and potentially with law very soon. Let's see what happens. I'm watching very closely. I've got my eyes on XRP and altcoins. I think they're the place to be. If Bitcoin can move up 100, 200, 300%, I think alts will do 2 to 5x whatever Bitcoin does across the board, and low caps probably doing 10x the move that Bitcoin does, whatever that might be. So if Bitcoin does, or 10, 20, 30, 40, 50x if you get in the right ones, obviously. I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. If you did enjoy the video, please do hit the like button, subscribe, and share it with a friend. If you want to trade anything on leverage, try out WeX below. My link's in my description. Thank you for helping me hit 2,000 weekly newsletter readers on Substack. I really appreciate that. And thank you to everyone who tuned in. Peace up. A-Town down, Crypto Insight UK would say.